Your hands are probably itching to scroll past this right now. That urge you feel, that's your brain working against you. Right at this moment, neurons are firing in your head, telling you this is too long, or I'll check this out later. But here's what's fascinating. That resistance you're feeling is actually the most important signal that you need to pay attention. Most people will listen to that voice. They'll scroll away, missing the very information that could break the chains of their past and create an extraordinary future. But you're still here. You've already demonstrated that you're different from the majority who let their biology dictate their destiny. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 4 powerful ways to overcome your brain's resistance to transformation. And here's what's really interesting. The 4th way I'll share is a technique so powerful, it literally rewires your brain at the quantum level. You'll want to watch till the end because this technique is directly connected to something even more extraordinary that I'll reveal later in this video. So here's the thing, your brain processes around 400 billion bits of information every second, but we are only conscious of about 2000 of those bits. Think about that for a moment. Your attention is the most valuable resource you possess, and right now, your brain is working overtime to direct that attention away from anything that threatens the status quo. It's not personal, it's biological programming designed to keep you safe, comfortable, and unchanged. I've worked with thousands of people worldwide who decided to override that programming. And what they've achieved goes beyond what most would consider possible. They've healed from conditions doctors called incurable, transformed their bodies in ways that seemed impossible, created extraordinary opportunities out of nowhere, and accessed states of consciousness that most people never experience, all because they recognized that moment of resistance and pushed through it instead of giving in. Your brain has created what I call an elaborate matrix of neural connections based on everything you've experienced, thought, and felt in your past. This network becomes so efficient that it practically runs on autopilot, creating the same thoughts, behaviors, and emotions day after day. It's why change feels so difficult. Your brain is literally structured to keep producing your past. When you try to think differently, act differently, or create a new future, you're going against decades of neural programming. That's why your brain sends those signals to stop, to wait, to distract yourself. It's trying to conserve energy and maintain the predictable patterns it knows so well. The moment you feel that resistance is the exact moment you should lean in, not pull away. That discomfort is the biological price of admission to an entirely new reality. Let me explain what's really happening in your brain right now. Every thought, every feeling, every life experience you've had has been encoded in your neural network. These networks operate like well-worn paths in a forest. The more you walk them, the clearer and easier they become to follow. Your current life is the product of these neural pathways firing in nearly the same sequence day after day. Your brain loves efficiency. It's designed to recognize patterns and then automate them. This design helped our ancestors survive. They didn't have to consciously think about how to find food or avoid danger each new day. Their brains automated these processes to conserve precious energy. The same mechanism that once ensured our survival now keeps us trapped in limitation. When you think about improving your life, creating something new, or breaking a habit, you're asking your brain to abandon its efficient automated pathways and create new ones. This requires chemical energy, physical restructuring of neural connections, and a temporary state of inefficiency. Your brain, operating from its primitive programming, interprets this inefficiency as a threat. It responds by flooding your system with chemicals that create resistance. That feeling of boredom, distraction, or sudden tiredness when you attempt something new, these resistance signals aren't random. They're specific neurological responses designed to guide you back to the safety of your automated past. In the comments, drop one word that captures the energy you're choosing to carry forward. Maybe it's alignment, maybe it's power, maybe it's transformation, maybe it's something uniquely yours. Let that word be a small but profound declaration, a signal like a quantum seed you plant not just in this space but in the quantum field. When you find yourself thinking, I already know this, or this is too complicated, or suddenly remembering an urgent task, That's not coincidence. It's your brain's homeostatic mechanism working to maintain your current state. The irony is stunning. The organ responsible for your growth is often the very thing holding you back, but only if you let it. Your brain's default state is to run the same programs it's been running. Think about how you felt this morning when you woke up. Within moments, familiar thought patterns emerged, creating familiar emotional states, leading to familiar behaviors. This is your personality, the repetitive thoughts, feelings, and actions that you've unconsciously automated. Neurons that fire together wire together. When you repeatedly think the same thoughts, you strengthen those neural connections. When you repeatedly feel the same emotions, you strengthen the chemical pathways that produce those emotions. This is why meaningful change feels so difficult. You're not just changing a behavior, you're attempting to override an entire automated biological system that's been reinforced throughout your lifetime. Now, let me share with you the first way to overcome this resistance. The first way is through sustained focused attention. Your attention is literally the sculptor of your brain. When you direct focused attention towards specific thoughts or actions, you signal to your brain that these patterns are important, triggering the growth of new neural connections. But this attention must be consistent. Most people give up when they don't see immediate results, not realizing that neural rewiring takes time. The brain requires repeated signals before it commits resources to build new lasting pathways. This is why consistency matters more than intensity in creating change. Think of it like water carving through rock. A single drop does nothing, but consistent drops over time can carve the Grand Canyon. Your focused attention works the same way on your neural pathways. The second way is through emotional engagement. When information is paired with elevated emotion, it creates stronger, faster neural connections. Your brain prioritizes experiences with emotional significance, allocating more resources to encoding and retrieving that information. This is why emotionally charged experiences create such powerful memories. You can use this mechanism intentionally by combining new information or behaviors with positive emotional states. When you generate feelings of joy, gratitude, or inspiration while learning or practicing new behaviors, you dramatically accelerate the formation of new neural pathways. Albert Einstein once said, "The most important decision we make is whether we believe we live in a friendly or hostile universe." When you approach change with elevated emotions, you're literally programming your brain to see possibilities instead of limitations. The third way is creating the right environment for change. Your physical environment contains countless cues that trigger your established neural patterns. Changing your environment, even temporarily, reduces these triggers and creates space for new patterns to emerge. This is one reason retreats and workshops can be so effective. They remove you from the environmental cues that activate your default programming. You can create this effect in your daily life by designating specific times and spaces for your transformation practices. Even simple environmental changes signal to your brain that something different is happening, creating an opening for new neural patterns. Steve Jobs understood this principle. He would often take walking meetings because the change in environment stimulated different thinking patterns. But here's what's truly fascinating, and this brings us to the fourth and most powerful way to overcome resistance. This technique is so profound, it operates at the intersection of neuroscience and quantum physics. But before we move forward, I want to invite you into something real. If you've been feeling like something's making sense, and if a part of you is realizing your own power, tap like if you just had an aha moment, because like attracts like, and subscribe. Stay with the space, grow with us. Also join our manifestation club on gogetter.au. Get inspired by reading manifestation stories and share your story to inspire others. The fourth way is through specific meditation that combines focused attention with elevated emotional states while disconnecting from environmental cues. This creates the perfect conditions for neuroplasticity. In proper meditation, you're directing focused attention away from your external environment and your physical body, reducing the sensory input that reinforces your existing identity. You're simultaneously generating coherent brainwave patterns that facilitate the formation of new neural connections. And when you add elevated emotions like gratitude, joy, or compassion, you create the chemical environment for rapid lasting neural change. This isn't speculation or philosophy, it's neuroscience. When measured with EEG technology, effective meditation creates high amplitude, synchronized brainwave patterns that facilitate communication between different brain regions. This synchronization allows for the formation of new complex neural networks that literally expand your capacity for thought, emotion, and behavior. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this connects to something extraordinary I'm going to reveal in just a moment. The coherent brainwave patterns produced during meditation also generate electromagnetic fields that affect quantum particles. This is where biology meets quantum physics. The observer effect in quantum mechanics demonstrates that the mere act of conscious observation affects the behavior of subatomic particles. When applied to your life, this means your focused attention literally reorganizes the energy and matter that make up your reality. Your consciousness isn't just observing your life, it's actively creating it at the most fundamental level. Now, I mentioned earlier that there's something extraordinary connected to this fourth technique. Here's what most people don't realize. When you master this ability to generate coherent brainwave patterns while in elevated emotional states, you don't just change your brain, you change your relationship with time itself. Most people create their future from their past. They wake up with the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and take the same actions, essentially using their consciousness to recreate yesterday. But when you break free from these automated patterns, something remarkable happens. You begin to draw your future to you instead of pushing against your past. And this brings me to something that will blow your mind. There's actually a way to accelerate this process so dramatically that you can manifest significant changes in your reality in as little as 3 days. Yes, you heard that right. 3 days. But I'll explain exactly how this works in the next video, because the technique I'm about to share there builds directly on what we covered today about overcoming brain resistance. Let me share some real examples of what becomes possible when people apply these principles. A woman in her 60 seconds had been diagnosed with progressive Parkinson's disease. She trembled constantly, struggled to walk, and had been told her condition would only worsen with time. After learning to interrupt her stress response through meditation and generate elevated emotional states, her symptoms began to diminish. Within 6 months, her tremors had reduced by 70% and she was moving with greater ease. Medical scans showed increased dopamine production in her brain, and something her doctors had said was impossible. A young man who had struggled with severe depression for over a decade found that no medication provided lasting relief. Through daily practice of focused meditation and emotional elevation, he began experiencing periods without depression for the first time since childhood. Within a year, he was medication-free and reporting consistent states of well-being. These examples share common elements: consistent practice, the combination of focused attention with elevated emotion, and persistence through initial resistance. None of these individuals experienced overnight transformation, but all created changes that others had told them were impossible. The most important aspect of their success wasn't the specific technique they used, but their willingness to continue despite not seeing immediate results. They understood that biological change takes time and that resistance is part of the process, not evidence of failure. Your body is what I call the unconscious mind. It doesn't think in words, but in feelings and sensations. Every thought you think creates a corresponding chemical response in your body. When you think the same thoughts repeatedly, your body becomes conditioned to expect and even crave certain chemical states. This explains why changing long-established patterns can create physical discomfort. Your cells have developed receptors for specific emotional chemicals, creating a biological dependency. When you interrupt familiar thought patterns, you interrupt the supply of these chemicals, creating withdrawal symptoms similar to drug addiction. These withdrawal symptoms manifest as resistance, IST, the emotional and physical discomfort that emerges when you attempt to change established patterns. Understanding this biological mechanism helps you recognize that this discomfort isn't a sign that change is impossible or wrong, but a natural part of the transformation process. Epigenetics has revealed that your environment, including your thoughts and emotions, influences how your genes express. Your DNA isn't your destiny. It's a set of potentials that can be activated or deactivated based on your internal and external environment. When you change your thoughts and emotions, you literally change which genes are expressed in your cells. This means many conditions you might consider fixed or inherited can be influenced through conscious intervention. Your thoughts and feelings create your biology, not the other way around. Dr. Joe Dispenza has documented thousands of cases where people have literally healed themselves by changing their internal state. When you understand this, you recognize that many limitations you've accepted as permanent are actually fluid and changeable. In the comments, share one thing you're ready to transform in your life. Maybe it's a limiting belief, maybe it's a health condition, maybe it's a relationship pattern. Let this be your declaration to the universe, because when you speak your intention into existence, you begin the process of quantum creation. The human brain consumes approximately 20% of your body's energy, despite being only about 2% of your body weight. Creating new neural pathways requires even more energy. When you try to learn something new or change a pattern, your brain must form new connections, which demands additional glucose and oxygen. No wonder it resists. But here's what most people miss. That resistance is actually the doorway to transformation. The moment you feel your attention wandering, when you feel the urge to stop, when you think, I'll come back to this later, that's the precise moment when pushing through will create the most significant change. Your brain creates specialized thought patterns to maintain the status quo. I call these resistance signatures, and learning to recognize them is essential for transformation. These aren't random thoughts, they're specific neural programs designed to keep you in familiar territory. One common resistance signature is the sudden emergence of skepticism. This sounds too good to be true, or where's the evidence? These thoughts may seem rational, but they often appear precisely when you encounter information that could change your life. Another resistance pattern is the I already know this thought. Your brain scans for anything familiar and then uses that familiarity to dismiss the entire message. Yes, certain concepts might be familiar, but intellectual understanding is worlds apart from embodied knowledge that creates real change. Perhaps the most insidious resistance signature is sudden physical discomfort. Your brain can actually create sensations of restlessness, fatigue, or even hunger when you begin to engage with information that could disrupt your current programming. The first step in overcoming these resistance patterns is simply recognizing them for what they are. When you feel that urge to stop, ask yourself, is this a genuine response to the information, or is this my brain's automated resistance to change? Just bringing awareness to these patterns begins to diminish their power. Most people think of reality as fixed and objective, existing independently of their awareness. But quantum physics has demonstrated that reality at its most fundamental level is probabilistic rather than deterministic, existing as fields of potential until collapsed into specific outcomes through observation. Your thoughts and feelings are not just responses to reality, they are creating it. Every thought produces an electromagnetic signal that extends beyond your physical body. These signals interact with the quantum field, influencing the probability of certain events and experiences manifesting in your life. This isn't magical thinking, it's the frontier where advanced physics meets neuroscience. The electromagnetic fields generated by your brain don't stop at your skull. They extend outward, interacting with fields of energy and information beyond your physical body. When you remain in your default neural programming, thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same emotions day after day, you're collapsing the infinite possibilities of the quantum field into the same limited reality you've been experiencing. You're using your creative consciousness to recreate your past. But when you interrupt those patterns through focused attention and elevated emotion, you begin interacting with the quantum field in new ways, opening yourself to possibilities that existed beyond your previous awareness. Your brain doesn't distinguish between experiences in your external environment and experiences you create through vivid mental rehearsal. When you combine clear intention with elevated emotion in a state of focused awareness, Your brain processes this internal experience as if it were already happening in your external reality. This creates a fascinating effect. Your brain begins producing the neurochemistry associated with the new experience before it has manifested in your physical reality. These neurochemical changes alter your perception, making you more likely to notice opportunities and resources that support your new intention. This is exactly what happened to a woman who had experienced 3 failed business ventures and was facing bankruptcy. By interrupting her patterns of anxiety and self doubt and mentally rehearsing success while in elevated emotional states, she began making decisions from a completely different mindset. Within 8 months, she had launched a successful new business and repaid most of her debts. The most important quality for transformation isn't willpower, it's fascination, a genuine curiosity about what's possible and how your mind and body work. Approaching change with fascination rather than force creates an entirely different energy and leads to more sustainable results. As the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, nothing is permanent except change. When you align with this fundamental principle of the universe, transformation becomes natural instead of forced. Your brain may want you to skip this information, to return to the comfort of familiar patterns, to continue creating your future from the limitations of your past. But you stayed with me, pushing through that resistance, demonstrating that you're capable of overriding your default programming. This choice to stay present with information that challenges your existing patterns is the first step in creating the new neural pathways that will define your future. The discomfort you might be feeling right now is not an indication that transformation is impossible for you, but evidence that you're in the process of creating new neural connections. Every person who has ever achieved extraordinary transformation has experienced this same discomfort. The difference isn't in their capacity for change, but in their willingness to embrace this discomfort as a necessary and valuable part of the growth process. You now understand the biological mechanisms of resistance and transformation. You recognize that your thoughts and emotions aren't just responses to your reality, but creative forces that shape it from the quantum level up. And you have practical tools to work with these mechanisms rather than against them. The choice before you isn't whether transformation is possible. The evidence from neuroscience, epigenetics, and quantum physics clearly demonstrates that it isn't. The choice is whether you're willing to apply this understanding consistently, pushing through resistance until new neural patterns become your default state. Your future isn't determined by your past, unless you continue running the same neural programs that have created your present. At any moment, including this one, you can begin interrupting those programs and creating new patterns that align with the future you intend to create. The resistance your brain generates isn't your enemy, but a signpost pointing toward transformation. Each time you recognize and move through this resistance, you're not just changing a specific thought or behavior, but developing your capacity for conscious evolution. Now remember, I mentioned something extraordinary about manifesting in just 3 days. This isn't about quick fixes or magic formulas. It's about understanding how time works at the quantum level and how your consciousness can literally bend reality when you know the precise formula. The technique I'll share in the next video builds directly on what we've covered today about overcoming brain resistance. Because once you master the ability to push through resistance, you can accelerate your manifestation ability to levels that will astound you. Make sure you share this video with your loved ones. Remember, you're not just sharing, you're spreading the possibility of transformation. That positive energy will amplify your own manifestation power, because when you help others break free from their limitations, the universe responds by removing limitations from your own life. If this message lights something up inside you, don't just watch transformation, live it. Hit subscribe and click on the bell icon for not missing out on any video. Also join our manifestation club on gogetter.au. You are an average of the 5 friends you make, and being part of like-minded manifestors in our manifestation club, listening to their success stories and sharing your success stories, you will increase your boundary of belief. To learn exactly how to manifest anything you desire in just 3 days using the quantum principles I hinted at today, click on the next video. I'll show you the precise technique that combines everything we've covered about overriding brain resistance with a specific manifestation formula that works at the speed of quantum reality. Your brain wanted you to skip this information because it threatens the stability of your existing neural programs. But you chose to stay, to push through resistance, to engage with possibilities beyond your familiar patterns. This choice itself is evidence of your capacity for transformation. The neural pathways created by this choice are the beginning of a new default state, one where growth and possibility take precedence over comfort and familiarity. With consistent attention and practice, these pathways will strengthen until transformation becomes your natural state and resistance becomes a welcome sign that you're expanding beyond previous limitations.